Sensitizing the target technique. This is when people within the mobile gulag say or do the same thing over and over again. It can range from someone negative to something very negative. Examples would be negative, you are worthless, to very negative, I'm going to rape you, kill you, or both. There can be added things like, why don't you just kill yourself? This can happen multiple times per hour for hours and hours on end. Many of the friend or foe techniques use this to maximize the effect of sensitization. If it comes from someone close to you, it hurts more, and it also hurts the trust you have in yourself. Because you trust yourself to realize who is dangerous and who is safe. Sometimes no one is safe, but that is rare, but not rare for a mobile gulag. There actually can be multiple actions or sayings the mobile gulag guards or attackers are sensitizing you to. This is for 4 reasons. 1, to make it less boring and more fun for the guards or attackers. 2, it increases the speed of the sensitization. 3, it raises the odds that the sensitization techniques will work. 4, it also allows the main gulag attackers to gauge which sensitization, which sensitization techniques are working best. Then they can double down on more successful sayings and actions that affect the target. They will also stop the less successful ones, not wanting to put energy into non-successful techniques. Anchoring. First, you need to see which sensitization technique is working. Then you apply an action or noise to that sensitization technique. This will become eventually shorthand for the attack. That action can be jingling keys to putting your finger on your face somewhere or almost anything, like scratching your nose in a certain way. All of these anchoring techniques all have to be done simultaneously with the sensitization techniques for it to work best. And the more people you have doing the action and saying the words, the more the chance of these techniques working. And it has to be done many times to really take hold and for the mind to draw the connection between the two. Now, these anchoring techniques can actually be changed to a shorter and shorter action as the target becomes more and more destroyed. The actions may be more overt and more sadistic in the beginning and get less and less overt and sadistic as they sensitize a person to those words in their head. And what will start to happen is the less and less overt actions will eventually become just as severe as the more overt sadistic actions. I'll make an example. The example is somebody saying, I will kill you, while they're putting like a finger across their throat like their knife. And doing that for a while with a bunch of people all doing it at the same time. And then you get threats and they follow you home and things like that happen. Then they decide to change that finger to the throat while I will kill you to scratching their nose. Now in your mind, they're doing all three, they're doing both actions at the same time because you're already sensitized to that throat cutting gesture. At the same time you're sensitized to I will kill you, at the same time you're sensitized to the scratching of the nose. So this makes your mind go to all three and to believe you truly will be killed because all three are reinforcing actions to each other. Once your brain makes a connection between the seemingly non-impactful action and the very impactful sensitization technique, sorry, I have to say that slow, having a hard time saying it, they now can just do the action and your body's response will be as if you've been psychologically attacked in the more severe ways. Like I said, your mind will connect all three things together. A 6-minute harassing attack and all of its damage can be reduced to a few seconds in what others would consider just a noise or a meaningless action, like a jingling keys or scratching your nose or scratching your butt or playing with your belt, whatever it is. There's 1,000 different things, but they do it in a certain exact way, and they all do it together at once in front of you. And then eventually, when you see that same exact action out in the world, you feel like they're still there. Now they could or they couldn't be. I've actually had people come up to me after they did that action and say, "You deserve what you got," knowing that action was done to me. But then also, there was a few times where I thought that person was probably not involved, and I had to make sure that I proved to myself who was involved and who isn't. Where the sensitization actions need to be an action against a target. The more dehumanizing, degrading, directed, and personal, the better for sensitization. An anchoring technique is better and more impersonal and undirected, it seems. Anchoring actions are usually everyday actions someone would see around them if they are looking for them. And because the anchoring is working, the target starts to notice these actions and connect them to the previous attacks. This way, the target doesn't know which actions are directed at him or not. So in a sensitized mind, they all seem directed at him. Now, some will be directed at the target, because some of the people jingling the keys and so forth will look at the target and say, "Did you hear that?" Or, like I said before, I kind of explained this before going on my own. I'm going to keep all this in the video. I know it might be double saying the same things, but I think this part is important. Because some of the people jangling keys and so forth will look at the target and say, "Did you hear that?" Or "You know what that means," and so forth. But not every time the action happens is it the attackers from the Gulag doing it. And once a sensitization and anchoring are working, it is better for the attack from the mobile Gulag attackers to blend into the background anyway, because it's more psychologically breaking. The amount of people who are involved in anchoring matters. Just adding a few more people can feel exponential to the target. And with it happening in tandem or over and over again, it can be done 1 to 10 times per hour at least, depending upon what attackers can get away with or how long the attacks are. And also how weak the target is important too. But the most important is to make the anchoring attack specific and exactly repeatable every time. So only that specific action gets that sensitization feeling. Like you are having to scratch your nose in a specific way, not just in general, or you have to, like I said, do your belt buckle, jiggle your keys in a specific way, have something on your keys that makes a certain noise, like a certain bell, anything like that that can be connected to a psychological breaking of the person being attacked. This will trigger the PTSD. Things like that. And so this will trigger an actual. You feel a change in your body. You'll feel fight or flight take over your body. You will feel fight or fight take over your body, and you'll get all warm. It's almost like the same feeling you get when you're being chased down by an animal, like a predator. You feel like prey. Once the sensitization and anchoring techniques are completed, the attackers only need to do quick anchoring actions to turn on the flight or freeze response, and to remind the target of all the other techniques used in the mobile Gulag. The PTSD flashbacks can be a result of these techniques, especially when paired with threats of forced suicide or being murdered or being raped or actually being raped, things like that. It feels like being murdered emotionally and psychologically over and over again, which I believe help creates the flashbacks, because your body feels like everyone around you is murdered. Because when you get murdered, you still see that you're still alive. So it's a weird situation where you're psychologically, emotionally murdered, so you actually feel the death of everybody else. It's a really strange feeling. I don't know how to explain it. These flashbacks can start to stack up, and then all of your sleeping is invaded by these flashbacks over and over again. One flashback stuck right to the end of another one before it, like a movie reel on a constant loop. You wake up in sweats more tired than you were when you fell asleep. It feels like you're at war, shell-shocked, but you can't leave the war, even though you're being murdered daily in your mind, even hourly in your mind sometimes. There are also physical chest pains that are called anxiety chest pains. They can come from the psychological stress of these mobile gulag techniques. And it happens when your body's in flight or freeze situation for way too long, and your body can't turn it off. This happened to me multiple times. I actually fainted. I found myself on the floor, I don't know, 100 times from these chest pains because I was trying to still live my life through them. Replacing Christian sins with atheist sins. The maker of the rules is the winner of the game. If the maker of the rules is an unbiased third party, like supposedly Christianity, where the God is someone other than someone telling you about the book, then no one has power over another. So the mobile gulag writes the sins and the punishments, so they're always in charge and will always win the game. This is why they want to replace traditional sins with their own atheist sins. Change the importance of the sins. In a situation where there are competing sins and one sin will push their agenda and the other atheist sin will work against them, then they will of course use the one sin that gets the outcome they want, no matter what religion it's from, whether it's atheism or Christianity or Buddhism or whatever. This is why and how they change the atheist sin's importance or the Christian sin's importance. Shifting of punishments. This happens when one of their own or someone they like sins or does something wrong. The principle of what punishment needed changes. An excuse is always found in the leniency. An excuse is always found, and leniency is always considered proper in these situations. The unfairness of the situations tends to help isolate the target from society at large, because the target's punishment was more than he or she deserved. And the narrative of him being racist or evil or some kinds of whatever, let's say, seems more legitimate. Because, of course, if he wasn't evil or racist or lying or crazy, he wouldn't have been as severe. So the punishment makes it seem like he's as bad as they say he is, even though the punishment shouldn't. You should look on what actually happened and what the actual actions of the crime were, or the problem was, or the sin was, whatever you want to call it. In my eyes, that could be a crime. Because it's not a crime to be racist, actually, in America. So even if he was racist, it wouldn't be a crime. But I'm using crime here, kind of, switching a sin. Well, I'll just say, the narrative of him being racist or evil or some kind of crazy or lying seems more legitimate, because if the sin wasn't as bad, then of course the outcome for him wouldn't be as bad. They actually used this in the case of Starbucks. They said, well, Starbucks capitulated, so it must have done something wrong. But it didn't have to. It didn't have to do something wrong to capitulate just to make sure it's not believed to be racist. Just a possibility of being perceived as doing something wrong and not actually doing something wrong may actually get it to act in a similar manner. You deserve it. They make you believe you deserve the mobile gulag. They do this by repeating that idea to you and also by keeping you within the mobile gulag. Its existence starts to break you down into believing you actually deserve what you're getting. Street theater. It is seemingly random events set up by people to make you stop trusting yourself and everything or everybody around you. This is what fake friends try to guide the target toward. It happens all around them, and it happens pretty often sometimes. The more the target's destroyed, the less street theater happens. You can see street theater in the story of the Chinese content Guo Xingxing. You can see some street theater in Tommy Robinson. I saw it kind of right away because I could kind of look what they were doing and why they were doing it. Or at least I believe I saw it. I might be wrong, but to me, Tommy Robinson is not as much danger as people think he is. But we still should make sure he doesn't get that danger because once you're doing street theater, ending the person's life is not that big a deal. Conditioning. Conditioning is a part of sensitization, except it deals more with the perception of the surroundings than just a personal. They condition you to feel odd when large groups are in places they're not supposed to be. These attacks are the street theater I'm talking about. They tend to happen in the same places over and over until the target stays away from those places, and the conditioning group or the street theater can show that it's won the battle. The target is starting to feel defensive when certain criteria are met, or when he approaches certain areas, or both. Sometimes the target will not only feel defensive, but will feel the flight or fight response go on before he gets to that point. And sometimes he or she won't. And usually it depends. For some reason, I almost could tell when the attack would start. And I started to realize I saw a person's face around a corner, or I saw a person run away. I started to see tells, and I could start to tell what was triggering what I started to believe was these attacks. Because I would be on a hypervigilant state, so my mind would realize things before my thoughts could see them. So I had to start being as vigilant as I would say, subconscious mind was being, in order to understand what I was seeing and why I was being triggered. As an example would be if a place is empty usually, has a lot of people. Another would be if many people watch the target walk into the area in question, and he noticed all the eyes were on him, even people really far away that shouldn't even notice him. His body then would get a flush of fear would set in. This is a fight or flight response. The target now has been conditioned to realize when the attacks would happen. It is hard to explain unless you have been in the street theater situation. Tampering. They spit in your food and put things in your food or on stuff you use. It might make you throw up. It might just be spit. It might be blood. It might be a bunch of things. There was a recent article, and many before this article, of roommates washing their toilet with their roommate's toothbrush. Sorry, a person washing a toilet with their roommate's toothbrush, and stuff like that. Telling third parties false information would also be tampering, or not the whole story purposefully to get them on your side would also be tampering. So a target does not get help in the way they need because people believe they're lying or there's something wrong with them that there's not, because all this stuff is happening to them, but they can't prove it. Another technique used is threatening physical attacks. We're actually doing physical attacks on the target and then being able to get away with them. This is probably done more often, I'm guessing, in places where the cops themselves are in on the attack. I was told not to go to the cops. I was pulled over by police officers. So, when some police officers are involved, but it would just make more sense. This would make more sense if police officers are involved, or people, at least in the government, was involved, and there could kind of be some cover for these attacks with a certain person who so-called deserves it, the target.